Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Odd One Out. Today is May 16, 2026. It's a Saturday. Real quick, please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. It helps my growing channel, helps me get going. I've got a long ways to go, but I'm seeing a little bit of progress in my subscriber count. I think that's pretty cool. I appreciate y'all for subscribing if you have. If you've watched a couple videos by now, or you just want to support, please go ahead and subscribe if you're not. And today's video is going to be about a comment that I had on one of my videos, my second to last one actually, one of the ones I made yesterday. It was a person from the Netherlands who said, what's it like having MAGA friends? I got a nice little piece of hair sticking up there. Hope you all don't mind. I've got cowlicks and crowns all over my head. It's kind of hard to keep up with sometimes. But anyways, what it's like to have MAGA friends, especially as not even just a liberal, but a leftist living in Oklahoma, which is the only state that had every single county go red in this last election in 2024. We are ultra MAGA. We are super duper MAGA. We are 50th in education and 50th in healthcare. We were 16th in education under our last Democratic governor about 15, 16 years ago, but I digress. We are super duper MAGA Republican identity politics state in the Bible Belt. Ultra conservative. If you're a Christian, you're a conservative. That's just how it goes, basically. It goes hand in hand. This goes back to Pat Roberts in the 80s, although Oklahoma especially, just, whether Republicans and Christians alike, especially the evangelicals, even know who Pat Robertson is. That's kind of the whole, him and Reagan really teamed up, not necessarily in tandem directly together, but just kind of in the movement in the 80s. With moving to, if you're a Christian, if you're an evangelical, you have to be a conservative. That's the one that most closely reflects your Christian values, which I can make a video on that, and I will, about how that's completely false. I don't know if it was true or not in the 80s. I'll have to do some research on that and see if the Republican Party back then more closely mirrored Christian politics at the time, because it certainly does not anymore. It's not even relatively close. And not even whenever you try to compare it to the left, it's not even close. The left is far more Christ-like. I will make a video on the future. But this video will be about what it's like to have MAGA friends. I do have MAGA friends. Somewhat exclusively, in a sense. And it's not by choice or design. Well, the choice is they are my friends. I've been friends with these people, some people for a long time. And it's just because I like them, just like anybody else has friends. I think these are good people. If they were not good people, I would not be friends with them. I think they're good people. I think that their motives are good. I think that their morals are good. I may believe they're misguided. But what it's like to have MAGA friends. So, and especially if you're a MAGA friend of mine that's watching this is not intended to be a shot. It's just an honest video speaking in good faith about having such an extreme difference in politics. I'm sure you could say the same thing about me, which I know that for those of you, I mentioned this in previous videos, but for those of you who don't know me or those who haven't seen the video, I have Asperger's, or it's now just lumped into ASD1. But I do like to still mention Asperger's because I think that makes it a little bit easier to narrow down. So I'm definitely a little bit awkward, definitely a little bit socially different. I've always known that, even before my diagnosis. But, it's something where I have always been a little bit different, a little bit obsessive, a little bit fixated. And so, I dive deeper into politics than pretty much anybody I know, including my wife, who's very active in politics. And so, already my friends will definitely think, dude, you're way too into this. Which, my defense of that, first of all, is this is the most wild time politically in American history. That's not just hyperbole, it's not exaggeration. And especially because I'm doing it not just as a hobby, I'm doing it because I'm deeply concerned. I have a daughter, she's about to turn 3. And I'm just in total bewilderment. I feel like I'm in a fever dream at what I'm watching and how people see the same thing that I see. Or at least I perceive that they see the same thing. I don't even know how much these people pay attention sometimes, but I just sit here and I'm like, what's going on? A bunch of these people that I've been friends with for so long that see what I'm seeing and come to the conclusion, oh yeah, no, MAGA is the way to go. Donald Trump, he actually cares about us. Donald Trump is the man. Or in some cases, Donald Trump sucks, but he's not as bad as the left. And so, it's just, I believe these people are extremely misguided. I believe some of them are just completely anti-Democrat. I don't even think it's necessarily that they have a strong belief in the right or that they believe necessarily that the right represents their values and virtues. I believe sometimes it just boils down to they're just anti-democrat. We talk about Trump derangement syndrome, which Trump derangement syndrome is real, but unfortunately those who have it, those who are infected by it, are the ones who still somehow support the greatest pedophile protector of our lives, and who posted himself as Jesus Christ and threatened to kill a civilization of 95 million people. Not making any of that up. By now, everybody knows I'm not making it up. Everybody knows that that's real. You'll just have some people that just ignore it or just say it's mean tweets or just write it off or, I don't even know. Or deflect to Biden, especially when it comes to Trump being a pedophile protector. They'll just deflect to Biden. And, I could go off on why that's not even correct to begin with, let alone that that's not an excuse. Like, okay, screw Biden then. Like, okay, let's just say that Biden did wrong. What about Trump? Why I'm talking about Trump? Why are you pivoting to Biden? Why do you have to pivot to Biden, who you think is bad? Does that mean Trump's bad too? So, I can just go off on that. But anyways, for being friends with MAGA, I used to have like this group chat with a bunch of my friends, or not a bunch, just a handful. And it's one where we used to talk just other things in general. We've pivoted throughout topics throughout the time, or just, just conversations in general. And what I find is these people that I've been friends with are exceptionally delightful people. They're people that I love to hang out with, I love to play golf with, I love to play pickup basketball with. Just good people. Like, legitimately, they're good people, man. But I've found out over time that just deciding to not talk politics is the best route. Like, yes, we can talk politics, and we can talk about politics in a good faith manner, and, just casually discuss them. But, like, especially with the talking points that get brought up, I find it really difficult to not, like, I can't just hear somebody spew out rampant disinformation and then just be like, that's fair. Or, okay. Like, I have a hard time with that personally. Like, one of the talking points is, Iran has a really bad regime. And because of that, they need regime change. Like, we have to be the ones that go in and do it. And I have a hard time with sitting there and just thinking, okay, all right, well, sure. I don't mind sending in troops into harm's way, threatening their lives, and getting into another forever war after just watching us fight several forever wars in the Middle East and rack up, I forget what the stat was. There was an actual research on this, like $8 trillion over 20 years. Massive sums of wealth. And it's one thing to, and it's not even just putting myself in camps, it's just thinking about it logically. It's one thing to send hundreds of billions, I think it was like $165 billion or so the last time I checked, to Ukraine in the form of 90s outdated equipment, especially, and then redirect the cash of it, not to Ukraine, but to our weapon suppliers to generate more weapons to restock. Give them our old 90s weapons that we're already phasing out, invest into our military defense, which definitely should make a video on. We're not an efficient military, but I digress. Turning that into new weapons, and then sending it off to defend somebody who was invaded, who was attacked unjustly and illegally by our tied for first greatest enemy. And in my personal opinion, while I definitely don't trust China, I think Russia is a bigger enemy. And so I see the goods to that, and I understand. I understand I've had conversations with them where they're like, how much is too much? Like, when is it enough? And I point to the Budapest Memorandum where it's like, yo, we had them give up their nuclear weapons. Like, they had nuclear weapons. They actually had the most nuclear weapons, more than actual Russia did. After the Soviet Union dissolved, Ukraine used to be part of the Soviet Union, and it had, out of all the Soviet states, the most nuclear weapons. They could have held on to it. They were a sovereign nation. They didn't have to, but they chose to. They chose to for peace. They chose to diplomatically, and it was spelled out in agreement with us and Russia and them. And so I look back to that and I'm like, look, they gave up their nuclear weapons. If they hadn't have done that, which you might hear my kitty cat over here, Simon, if they hadn't have given up nuclear weapons, Russia was never going to invade them. I mean, there's just no question about it. The threat of a nuclear counterattack to your invasion, will usually keep somebody off of their borders. So I looked at that, and I looked to a proxy war that would dismantle Russia. They're doing, Russia is getting pummeled by this war. So is Ukraine, obviously. But Russia is weakening itself. It's turned out to be a paper tiger, much in the same way that we are against Iran. And you could argue we are doing a little bit better versus Iran than they are doing versus Ukraine. Although both scenarios definitely look like a paper tiger, unfortunately. But like I look to that stuff, and then I look to Iran, where it's like nobody, I mean nobody, thought it was a good idea to invade Iran. Republicans didn't think it was a good idea to invade Iran. Before the invasion, it was like 60 something percent of Republicans opposed invading Iran. And as soon as they do, of course, the MAGA cultists just jump right onto it, and it's like the approval skyrockets. And they're like, oh yeah, no, we need this, we need this. And they just get the talking points going and going. Another one being like, they killed 41,000 protesters. And it's like, I have never once negated that against somebody because I already do think Iran is a rogue regime. I do think that they have lots of criminal, unjust things that they do to their citizens. So it doesn't, I don't find the great utility in trying to argue against that. What I do say, or I haven't even said this, but what I do think is you mean to tell me that in like 1 week they killed more than half of what the claimed number of deaths in Gaza is over like 3 years of being annihilated by Israel. Look at the pictures, look at the drone footage, and it's all just rubble. So, it's the talking points are just like make you want to bang your head up against the wall because it's like there's no logic here. And so for some of them it's just not as big of a deal. For other ones it's like no. Like it's actually annoying to hear, oh, we needed to go change Iran's regime, and it's like, have you missed the other regime change wars? We put up great ideas like universal health care or free tuition for public universities that would cost less than and universal health care would cost so much less if you replace healthcare premiums. You take that off, and even the tax that you instate to fund universal health care would be significantly cheaper to Americans. Americans would be so much wealthier, would have better health outcomes. I could go off. But like, especially like funding college tuition where there's not something already there like there is with the healthcare premiums. We could have funded, I think it's just in these 2 months that we've been at war in Iran, we could have funded for a year free public universities. And so it's like, all the time that you put up scenarios like that, they're going to say, well, how are you going to pay for it? But then there's just silence on when we go and invade Iran and get into a lot of trouble, wreck the global economy, wreck the U.S. economy, make everybody pay $2 plus more than they did before at the pump, just destroying wallets. Chaotic, and it's only the beginning. We're about to see fuel prices continue to go up. Fertilizer prices are already through the roof. We're going to have food shortage. It's nuts. The U.S. is going to do a little bit better than the rest of the world because of our mass sums of wealth and how California grows enough food for all the world, basically. So, or at least all the U.S. I forget what the stat is, whether it's all the world or for sure all the U.S. It's for sure at least all the U.S. And that's another thing, too, is the disconnect from just the damage that we're doing to the rest of the world. Like, it just doesn't even enter some of these people's minds. And so, I hear some talking points, and I'm just like, so like I've made like an agreement with these guys. Like I want to stay friends with you because I think that y'all are good people. I've been friends with y'all for a long time. I got really awesome core memories with y'all. I do legitimately think y'all are good people. I think you are extremely misguided, and I think that you position yourself in camps, and it's like identity politics. It's like anti-democrat. It's I'm a Christian. I have to be a Republican. No critical thinking. There's, an attack on MAGA is almost like a personal attack on these people. And so, politics to me, it's like I just rather not talk about it, man. Let's just enjoy a round of golf. Let's shoot some hoops. You want to have a beer, or you want to just hang out with these people. Okay. But I've gotten to the point where just don't talk politics. I would like to in a constructive manner, but at the same time I don't find any use to it. People aren't convinced. And there actually is, I don't know the study off the top of my head, but there's actual studies out there that prove that talking to people about politics, no matter how convincing your points can be, don't really do much to change people's positions. People are pretty dead set in what they believe politically. And that can be really frustrating, especially whenever you see what's happening, this like authoritarian fascist hellscape that America's become. It's just like nuts, a fever dream watching it. And Republicans don't care. Like for like 85-90% of Republicans don't care. They do not care. It's their side doing it. If the Democrats are doing it, holy, can you imagine? Can you imagine Obama or Biden doing any of this? It'd be like Fox News would never shut up. Republican friends would, it just, it would be endless. So I've found out through my own time, I've certainly tried to sway people. I've certainly tried to sway people, whether it be casual conversations in person or over text, and those two being direct, or over Facebook, indirect, with your friends, or Facebook with strangers. Like, none of it matters. People are just going to, like, you can go through a conversation, you can say all the stuff that makes all the sense, you can present all the facts you want, people are not going to change their minds. I put out this content because I want to strengthen people's, like, especially liberals out there, because I used to be a liberal. Look, it's not working, man. This whole liberal thing, you need to push further left. Whenever centrists try to get you towards the middle or try to get you, no. It's just a service to the billionaires, a service to corporations. I'm glad to see the extreme leftist push that's happened. I, at one point, thought, man, I'm extreme. I'm far left. And I look around me and all these elections happening and, like, the polls of all these candidates happening. I'm like, thank God I'm actually kind of in the average normie pool now. The normie pool is pushing left. That's good. So that is the purpose of the channel. And especially to grab independence. And there's plenty of evidence, too, that suggests, like, there's no, like, actual true independent. People do still lean right or do still lean left, even if they're not actually in the party. So, I'm driven by what I see. We're in a democracy, so there is still an element to where I do want to influence change. But for people that are, like, MAGA Republicans, especially if they, Jennifer Welsh from I've Had It podcast, who should be our DNC chair, her or Kyle Kalinske, maybe they can both do it. She says that, she calls them triple Trumpers. I don't think triple Trumpers, they're not. They're always going to be in that kind of vein. Even if they move on from Trump himself, they're the movement. They're still going to absorb the movement. They're still going to absorb all the talking points, all the influencers out there, like freaking libs of TikTok and Jack Posobiec, TPUSA, Ben Shapiro, Benny Johnson, like, they're just going to absorb these people and, keep on echoing what they say. They may say Trump is vile, Trump is a cretin, but he's right on some things. It's like he's literally right on, like, nothing. I'm not even kidding, like, nothing. He's wrong on everything. And so they're going to absorb him. They're going to move further right, I think. I genuinely believe the Republican Party is going to move further right, as the Democrats do move left as well. And, I know I'm biased, but look, truth is not right down the middle. It's not split right between Democrats and Republicans. Because by that logic, as the party shifts, so does the truth. No, the truth doesn't shift. The truth stays set wherever it is. And so, I think it's good that the Democrats are moving left. But I look at the right moving further right, and it's like moving into, it's already kind of there, but especially digging its feet into far-right Christian nationalism, especially white Christian nationalism. I think that's the next big step for MAGA. And so I just look at it and I think these people are going to be who they are. They're going to be far-right wingers. And I can get along with them. They can do good in the world. They can do horrible things at the voting booth that have, like, using their votes, that have drastic consequences, such as kicking how many millions of people off it? Was it 12 million people off of healthcare with the cuts to Medicaid and Obamacare? Like, these have real world consequences. Deciding, I don't mind spending $70 billion plus, it's going to be more, on a war in Iran, but I don't want U.S. aid to spend, $4 billion feeding people in Africa and saving 1 million lives and giving them medicine. It's like, yeah, I want the war in Iran, but I don't want to spend my money on countries getting fed, like I said, and getting treated. It's like these have drastic consequences, and I wish that these people would sit down and really critically think about it. So, to answer the person's question and just kind of make a general video about it, there are plenty of good people out there that are MAGA. Like, that's just how it is. I'm pretty extreme. I'm very biased, but that's one thing that I think is truthful, is that the ideology can come in all shapes and sizes when it comes to the people that reflect it. And so it's really odd. You can sit there and just somebody's like, oh yeah, I'm a nice guy, and then all of a sudden, did you know that Hillary Clinton and Bill Clinton drink babies' blood? And it's like, maybe we just shouldn't talk politics. So it's really odd. It's a total fever dream, but that's the world that we live in. I wish it was different. I'm here for the change. I want to see that change happen broadly, but I acknowledge that change is not going to happen with some people. And some people, it's just let them go, dude. Let them go as far as politics go. If you, like myself, know people that are really good people, and you think that you benefit from being friends with, and that have stood there with you, well, then I would encourage you to continue those friendships. One of the things I literally said is, we can't talk politics. We can't do politics, bro. Like, we're just gonna, anytime we text is about normal stuff. I want to be friends with you. Because the end result of continuing to talk politics is just going to be like, dude, at some point, you got to draw the line. Like, this is like literally good versus evil. And they believe that too. And so that's kind of a problem. Whenever you have two conflicting ideologies that both think it's good versus evil. It's like, okay. So that would be my advice to anybody, or just the insight that anybody like this Dutch person would have, is just, a lefty living in the Bible Belt in Oklahoma. I just don't talk about it with some of these people. There's no point. There's not going to be any minds changed. It's only going to be hurt feelings. You can say all the facts you want. They're still going to go back to Hillary Clinton drinking baby blood and killing like 100 people. So it is what it is. I wish it wasn't. So do good in your community. Show these people with your actions that, show them the way. And maybe that's the one way, is you can like plant a seed just by your actions and goodwill. But outside of that, no, it's not worth it. It's not worth it to try to sway these people. So that's all for that video. I appreciate y'all tuning in. I'm going to go enjoy the rest of my Saturday evening. I hope you do the same. Odd one out.